How's everyone today? Good. Sorry, I'm so sorry I'm late. I have a good excuse. I was, the Finland 大使 wanted to have coffee with me this morning. So I don't, the Finland, they they have a office in Taipei, and I met one of their representatives last May, and then he called me up and he said, "Hey, can you come and have coffee with me because I want to bring my ambassador or my." Of course, it's not official ambassador; it's a representative. So it's kind of like the Finland 大使. So they were down in Taichung. So he said, "Can we meet this morning and have coffee because they want to talk about Taichung, and they're interested in." Maybe looking for some business or investment opportunities in Taichung. And so they said, you're the Taichung 美国商会, so maybe you can introduce Taichung and give us some ideas about where to invest or what opportunities are in Taichung. So I was drinking coffee with them and talking about promoting Taichung. So so I was helping Taichung before I came here. Hopefully, we'll see. So I think many foreign offices that represent their countries, they want to try to get outside of Taipei more, because as even they said today, they told me today, if you live in Taipei, it's very easy to spend all your time in Taipei, and never leave Taipei. But they want to try to get down to Taichung and other parts of Taiwan more to see what's going on and look for opportunities. So of course they want to help Finnish companies to find business opportunities in Taichung. So I was giving them some ideas about that. So we'll see. Have any of you ever been to Finland before? Oh, you have. Okay. Oh, you have. Oh, that's great. That's a place. I have many friends from Finland, but I've never been to Finland. Yeah, there used to be. So sorry. Let me change this. So it's Finland. And of course, if you're from Finland, we say you are a Finn, and they speak a language called Finnish. Okay, so it's a very interesting. So why don't we say together, Finland, Finland, Finn, Finn, Finnish, Finnish. We were just before I came here, as I was saying goodbye, we were discussing this language, and it's considered one of the most difficult languages in the world. He told me the grammar, the 文法 is really complicated, and so the language is very difficult. So probably I'll tell you why, because nobody else speaks Finnish, right? He said actually it's very rare. It's rare to find a foreigner, 外国人, who speaks Finnish fluently, because Finland is not a very large not a big country, right? The population is not very big. I mean, the area is very big, but the population is quite small. So for many people, I think if they're going to make the effort to learn Finnish, there has to be a very good reason. So I'm sure that's why most of them speak English. It's interesting because I find that most of my European friends who grew up there, their English is pretty good. I think they all learn English. And then, of course, most of my European friends speak more than one. Sometimes they speak 3 or 4 languages. So I think that's one great thing about Europe. Whereas I think most Americans, they speak one language and then maybe they speak a second language like Spanish, but maybe not so good. But yeah, so anyhow, it was fun to talk to them. Right. So I did not tell them this, but my first girlfriend was Finnish, from Finland. So yeah. So yeah. We use English. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, Morrison. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few words. Yeah, but not "I love you." I still don't know how to say that in Finnish. Yeah. Yeah. Arctic family member. I'm sure, I mean, because their country goes up into the Arctic Circle, right? That circle up. Well, their language is interesting because I've heard that language it's actually more connected to Asian languages than it is to European languages. It has a stronger connection to Asia than Europe. So yeah, it's different, and it's different from Swedish. Radian, they have their own language. So, and I know that in school, at least before, all the Finns had to learn Swedish, Radian. They had to learn their language in school also. So I don't know, it's very interesting. Of course, Finland and Russia have had a very interesting relationship. I mean, they fought wars with each other over the years. Yeah. So anyhow, very interesting place. I'm not a linguist, so I don't know the exact term, but I remember hearing that Finnish has a very unique language. It comes from a different family of languages than other Scandinavian languages, so it's kind of different. So one of these days I need to go visit Finland because it looks quite beautiful. The country, like you said, lots of forests, lots of lakes. Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Johansson, I think Johansson is the way that the J is pronounced as a Y, but I'm sure many Americans don't know that, and they just say Johansson. But I think it's Johansson. Yeah. So that's a very Scandinavian sounding name, Danish or something like that. And I think I told you last time, Finland is not considered a Scandinavian country. It's a Nordic country, Northern Europe, but it's not part of Scandinavia. Scandinavia is Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Yeah. So, and Iceland. We don't want to forget Iceland. Yeah, Iceland is there too. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, well, this article is not from today. It's actually from 2 days ago, but I thought, this is so important. We talk about Donald Trump a lot. So I thought, why not look at this article and see what read it together. So, as you all know, on the 20th, we had the big the inauguration, right? And I'm sure they'll have that word here, but let me write it down. Inaugurate. What is to inaugurate as a 动词? What does that mean? Yeah, to begin, to launch, right? We could say to launch. Or maybe sometimes we could say to introduce, right? Right, to begin. These are all similar words to inaugurate, right? So why don't we say it together? Inaugurate. Inaugurate. Okay, begin. Launch. Introduce. Right. It's probably these two words are better, begin and launch, right? When you inaugurate something, it's something you start doing, right? You can inaugurate a new company or project or anything like that. We inaugurate. So if we want to turn that word into a 名词, a noun, it becomes inauguration, T-I-O-N, right? Inauguration. Why don't we say it together? Inauguration. Inauguration. Okay, so yeah. So anyhow, the inauguration was on the 20th. There's something, I hope it's not a bad sign, but I had the TV on, and I was kind of, I didn't watch the whole inauguration, but I had the news on, it was live. And as I was waiting for the inauguration, we had a 大地震, right? The whole place started shaking. My phone went off and it said warning, alert. And I thought, oh no, And of course, we had that big earthquake down in Jiayi. So my friend said, well, I hope this is not a bad sign, right? So yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. But anyhow, it says here, Trump takes U.S. reins with flurry of executive orders. So there's some very interesting words here. Okay, first of all, what's this word here, reins? What does that mean? Yeah, but what is it? What are actually physically? What are reins? Yeah. So when you ride a horse, 骑马, right? You have those. They're like these things that you hold in your hands, right? They're like usually made out of leather, right? And they go into the horse's mouth, right? And those are called reins, okay? You use the reins to control the horse, right? If you want to turn left, you pull at this side. If you want to turn right, you pull this side, right? If you want to stop, you pull both reins, and that's to control the horse. So if you say to take the reins, that means to take what? Control, right? So if you say he took the reins at the new company, or he took reins at the company, or he took U.S. reins, it means that he took control of the United States. Okay, so to take the reins means to take over, to take control. Okay, because if you have the reins in your hands, that means you control the horse. Okay, so why don't we say together, reins, reins. Okay, now this word always has an S. Okay, it's not rain, it's reins, because you have two of them. Now, this word, of course, sounds like many other words, or couple other words. Of course, when it, 下雨, we have rain, but also to reign with a G, what does that mean? To rule, okay? So if you say the king reigns over the country, it means he is in command, he is in control. And we use that word a lot with kings, 国王, or emperors, we use the word reign, and it has, as you notice, it has a G, okay, but the pronunciation is the same, okay, it's reign, just like 下雨, rain. This one is also reigns, but this one always has an S, okay? So these are good words to understand. And just remember, the spelling is different. If you look at those two words, so it'll tell you which word is which. So here it says Trump takes U.S. reigns, like he takes control of the U.S. with flurry of executive orders. Now, of course, order is like a, 下命令, right? An order. But what's a flurry of something mean? Yeah, it's like a whole bunch of, okay? I think a word, when I think of suddenly, like we could say a burst of, right? Burst is like a small explosion, like something blows open, it opens up, it bursts, like a balloon, right? A chicho, it bursts, it pops. But when you think of something that bursts open, it kind of explodes, like a explosion. So when we say a flurry, means it's like a sudden bunch of something, right? So a flurry of executive orders means there's a bunch of them, there's many of them, and they all happen together, and it happens quite suddenly. It's突然, right? It's sudden, okay? I don't think so. I think it's always a noun, a flurry. I'll tell you where this word gets used a lot, especially in the wintertime. In America, when we say there is a snow flurry, a snow flurry means that there's snow falling, but it's like a light burst of snow. Like, it's not like a blizzard where there's lots of snow just coming down. But if you say there's going to be some snow flurries, it's almost like, when we talk about rain, 下雨, we say it's drizzling today, or it's sprinkling today. A snow flurry is the same way, but it's snow. It's just coming down a little bit. It's blowing around, but it's not heavy. It's a flurry of snow, okay, or snow flurry. And that's a different idea. But if you say a flurry of executive orders, it means there's suddenly a bunch of executive orders, like it just comes out. No, we wouldn't use flurry for flowers, but you would say a flurry of orders, a flurry of actions, something like that. Okay. That's called a McFlurry, but that has to do with the snow. That's more like the snow, 下雪, it's that idea. This is a slightly different idea. This word here is not so much about snow, but it has a kind of that idea that suddenly all these things happen. Why don't we say it together? Flurry. Flurry. Okay, so let's see what he did. It says here, U.S. President Donald Trump yesterday began his first day in office riding a wave of executive orders signed just hours after his inauguration on Monday on everything from immigration to the environment and culture wars. Okay, so his first day in office, okay. Now it says here, riding a wave of executive orders. Now an executive order is an order, it's like that the president gives, right? It doesn't have to go to 美国大会,大会. It's not it's something that the president can say, I am going to give this order. I'm going to order something. So because he is the executive, he is the, he is like the 执行长, right? The executive. We call that an executive order, okay? Because it comes from the president, from the top, okay? So why don't we say together, executive. Executive. Remember, this has a Z sound, so executive. One more time, executive. Okay, so you can say, we talk about CEO as 执行长, Chief Executive Officer, right? But we can also say, like, he is the executive of his company. Or there are many business executives. They're all like the officers of the company. Like the CEO, the vice president, the chairman. Those are all executives, okay? So executive orders. Now it says here, it's funny, it says, there's an expression here, it says, riding a wave of executive orders. So when you ride a wave, right, I think of like maybe surfing, 冲浪, or if you're on a ship or boat and you're on top of the wave. The wave is coming up, the 海浪 is coming up, and you're riding it. You're on top of it. So it's like these orders are like this wave of orders, and he's on top of it. So it's kind of this idea like you're riding on top of this wave. So that's what it says, riding a wave, okay? Wave, of course, is 海浪, right? It's like, also it means to wave, right? Different meaning. So a wave of executive orders signed only just hours after his inauguration on Monday. Okay, what were these orders about? It says on everything from immigration, and you know the word immigration, right? In Taiwan we have the 移民署, right? So we say the immigration office. Okay, if you want to use this as a 动词, it's immigrate, right? You say he immigrated to America. Okay, so why don't we say together, immigrate, immigrate, immigration, immigration. And this immigration can be a 形容词 or it can be a 名词, either way. Like we have an immigration office, or you can say there's a lot of immigration into America. Okay, so these orders covered immigration to the environment, 环境, to culture wars. Okay, now culture wars is a very interesting expression, but when we say culture wars, it means like in America, you have a lot of war, not real wars, but fights between like the conservatives, the very 很保守, and the liberals, 很开放, and against various groups, and they're fighting with each other. And so Donald Trump has some orders relating to that. Okay, so let's read this. Any questions? Anything? Yeah, ideological wars, right? So people's ideas. It's a war of ideas. That's maybe a good way of putting it. Okay, so. Okay, so emigration means to move out of your country, right? So actually that's a good reminder. If someone emigrates, no, I think it's one M. Right. To emigrate means to move out. So you say he emigrated to another country. It means he moved out of here and went to another country. But immigrate means to come into a country. You immigrate to America, you emigrate out of a country, right? You move out, okay? So it is interesting. So let's say this word together, to emigrate. To emigrate. Obviously, we don't use that word as much. We usually talk about this, yeah. Okay, so let's read this together. U.S. President Donald Trump yesterday began his first day in office, riding a wave of executive orders signed just hours after his inauguration on Monday. One more time. Inauguration. Okay. On everything from immigration to the environment and culture wars. Okay. Let's go on. It says here, it was unclear if or when more executive orders would come from Trump as the country and world digest the blizzard of actions he took on Monday, including initiating withdrawals from the Paris Climate Accord and the WHO. Okay, so unclear means it's not clear, of course. You can say it's unclear if it's going to rain today or not. Okay, so it's unclear when, if or when more executive orders would come as the country and the world, okay, 美国 and the world digest. Okay, so this is a funny expression, okay? What does digest mean? Right. Well, it means to process, right? To think about, to consider. Like if you eat food, your stomach will digest the food, right? So if you're digesting something, if your friend gives you an idea or they tell you something and you think, I need some time to digest that. Okay, what does that mean? It means I need some time to what? To take in, but also to think about, to ponder, to consider, okay? You know, I think the word to ponder, P-O-N-D-E-R. Ponder means what? To consider, to think about, right? So if somebody says, hey, you know what? I want to give you a new idea. I want to do something. You think, can you give me a day to think about this? I need to digest this, right? Just like when you eat food, your stomach needs time to digest it, okay? To think about it, to ponder it, okay? So it says the world needs to, they digest the blizzard of actions. Now this is another, we just talked about flurry, right? Snow flurry. What's a blizzard? A heavy snowstorm. So right now in 美国东部, they're having a huge, big blizzard, okay? Lots of snow coming down. My mother sent me a photograph in front of her house, and the snow is about this deep, okay? So, and it's on the roofs, on the sidewalk, it's everywhere. So we can say a blizzard. It's like a snowstorm, okay? But of course, this is not a snowstorm. This means what? A lot of actions, lots of things happening. So you could say there was a blizzard of actions or blizzard of new plans or blizzard of ideas. It means a lot of things happening. What? Avalanche? Yeah, you could say that. You could say an avalanche of something. Okay. Actually, she raises an interesting word here. Avalanche. Sorry. What is an avalanche? So when you have on the mountains, you have lots of snow, and suddenly the snow starts coming down the mountain in a big wave, like a hailang, right? Sometimes because there's just too much snow, or sometimes even a loud sound can make that snow come down the mountain. And it's very dangerous, right? Because if you're standing there and you get hit by that snow, it will bury you. You can be buried deep down under the snow. So we say avalanche, okay? So why don't we say together, avalanche. Avalanche. Okay, so she just said something. You could say an avalanche of actions, okay? If you said that, you could say it like suddenly a burst, a blizzard, of actions, okay? So let's say this word together, blizzard. Blizzard. And it's funny because you mentioned earlier McDonald's, has they call it McFlurry, right? There's another company, a fast food company called Dairy Queen, that has a milkshake called the Blizzard, okay? Dairy Queen is they actually have it in Taipei, not in Taichung. Many years ago, like in the 1980s, Dairy Queen had a branch in Taichung, opposite the Taichung Gongyuan, but they're not here anymore, unfortunately. They have good ice cream and they have good hot dogs, 热狗. But they have a special milkshake or ice cream called the Blizzard, okay? Mm-hmm. Blitzkrieg, you mean like blitz? Yeah, blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg. Yeah. It's like a lightning war. Yeah. I don't know if it is. I don't know the origin of that word. Maybe. Yeah. It could be because blitz means fast, lightning, right? Yeah, lightning war. Okay, so the world and America have to digest. They have to digest the blizzard of actions he took on Monday, which include what? Initiating. Of course, initiate means to what? To start, to begin. You could even say to inaugurate, right? You could say to inaugurate something, to start, to begin, to initiate. Why don't we say together, initiate? Initiate. Okay, initiating what? What did he do? Withdrawal. Withdrawal means to pull out, to leave, right? Pull out from the Paris Climate Accord. Accord, this word means what? Agreement. A-C-C-O-R-D, an accord. If you say we have an accord with each other, or our country signed an accord, it means we have an agreement. So, accord. Why don't we say together, accord? Accord. Okay, so there's a very well-known Paris body, climate, Chiho agreement, okay? And the WHO, the World Health Organization, okay? So they pulled out, okay. Okay, so let's read this together. It was unclear if or when more executive orders would come from Trump. As the country and world digest the blizzard of actions. Let's say it one more time. Blizzard of actions he took on Monday, including initiating, again, initiating withdrawals from the Paris Climate Accord and the WHO. Okay. I don't think he does, but I mean, an executive order usually means you do not need congressional approval. Now, of course, you can't just do anything you want, right? There are certain things you can do as an executive, and there's some things you cannot do. But I'm not sure where the line is. Where's the line between congressional approval and executive orders? That's a very good question. Maybe. I mean, it's not cheap, right? The climate accords means rich countries have to pay a lot of money to other countries. So yeah, I know he's not a big fan of this accord, this agreement. He does not like this, and many people who support him do not like it. They think it's 浪费钱, or that it's stealing money from. Yeah. So anyhow, okay. So here it says, signed in front of roaring supporters at an arena, and then later in the Oval Office, the long list of policy changes offered a vivid symbol of Trump's increased preparedness versus 8 years prior, when he entered the White House with zero governing experience. Okay, so let's take this apart. There's a lot of words here. So he signed this executive order. Of course, if you give an executive order, you have to sign it, right? 要签名, right? So he signed this in front of roaring, supporter, of course, is 支持者, right? Okay, what does roaring mean? Shouting, right? If you are roaring, that means everyone's shouting together. Yeah, it's like, we talk about a 狮子 roar, a lion roars, right? But if you have a crowd of people making lots of noise, we could say the crowd is roaring. Usually because they're happy or they're excited or they're supportive, okay? So why don't we say it together? To roar. Roar. To roar. Roar. Roaring. 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 Now, of course, roar can be a 动词 or it can be a 名词. You can say a lion's roar is very loud, right? Okay, so that's a 名词, that's a noun, okay? But here, the roaring here becomes a 形容词, roaring supporters, okay? Okay, so it says here, signed in front of roaring supporters at an arena. What's an arena? Yeah, like Taichung is building a new arena on Huanzhonglu, right? Near the 74 highway there. So we call it, it's actually called the Taichung Arena. That's the official name, arena. So let's say together, arena. Arena. Okay, so at an arena, and then later in the Oval Office, and I think you know this is the president's office, right? What does oval mean? Yeah. So an oval looks like this, right? Okay. It has like an egg. Yeah, it's a shape like an egg. That's an oval. Not a circle, but an oval. Okay. So so why don't we say together oval? Oval. Okay. The long list of policy changes, of course, policy is 政策, right? So 政策改变 or 改革 or whatever, 改变, I guess. Policy changes offered a vivid symbol. Okay, this gave a vivid symbol. Okay, 代表性, it's a symbol. But what does the word vivid mean? There's a better word, I think. When you say something is vivid, what? What is it? What's a good word? There's a simple word for it. It starts with a C. Not colorful. Okay. So if something is vivid, I think of it as being very colorful. Okay. Okay. So vivid, you could say the sky is very vivid today, or there's vivid colors, bright. I guess another word would be very similar, would be bright. Oops. Bright. Yeah, bright. Bright, colorful, vivid. You know, those are all very similar. So you could say this is a very strong, very colorful, very bright symbol of Trump's increased preparedness. Okay. Now, of course, you know the word to prepare, right? 准备, right? So preparedness is a 名词. It means, are you ready? Okay. If you say he has lots of preparedness, or he has preparedness for his new prime, means he's prepared. He's ready. Okay. And you take the word prepare as a 动词 and you turn it into a 名词. Now, of course, you could use another way of saying prepare is preparation, right? You can say I've made many, but this is more of a state. This is a status, right? He has preparedness. It means it's a condition of being prepared. Okay. Whereas if you just say I'm going to prepare for something, then it becomes a preparation, right? You can say he made preparations to move his house, or he has Are you making preparations for the Lunar New Year, for 农历过年? You could say right now I'm making lots of preparations, okay? But preparedness is a condition. Do you understand that? It's the condition of being prepared, okay? So you can say he has preparedness, or increased preparedness, or not enough preparedness, okay? So that's what it means. Okay, so why don't we say together preparedness. Preparedness. Okay, and then that word preparation. Preparation. Right. So right now, everyone in Taiwan is making preparations for the holiday, right? Maybe they're going to the market. Maybe they're, buying extra food, all those things, right? Okay. So this is a symbol, a very bright or clear or strong symbol or colorful symbol of Trump's increased preparedness versus, okay? Now versus, when we say versus, it means by comparison to. If you want to 比较 something, okay, what are we going to 比较, okay? Now, versus can mean as we compare something, or, like if we say two, 运动比赛, there's a 运动比赛, we have this team versus that team. Or if we have a 选举, right, you have this person versus that person. They're against each other. Often when we write this word, we just write VS, right, versus, okay? So this it's saying Trump this time is very prepared versus compared to. We could simply say, instead of saying versus, we could simply say compared to what? 8 years prior. Now, what does prior mean? Before, okay? Someone can say, did you have any prior experience on this job? It means, do you have any experience from before? Many people say, what are your prior jobs? It means, what jobs did you have before? Okay, or you can say, prior to coming to this class today, I was meeting with the Finnish representative. Okay, so it means before coming to this class, I was meeting with the Finnish representative. So prior to. So this is a good word. So why don't we say together, prior to. Okay, so, and we haven't said this word either, versus. Okay, so he has increased preparedness versus or compared to 8 years before. We could simply say before, right? Prior, when he entered the White House with zero governing experience. So when Donald Trump became president the first time, he had no governing experience. He'd never been a political leader or president or anything like that. Now, of course, he'd been a company leader, but not a political leader, like a government leader. Okay, so he had zero governing experience. Okay, so let's read this together. Signed in front of roaring supporters at an arena, and then later in the Oval Office. Oval Office. The long list of policy changes offered a vivid symbol. Let's say it again. Vivid symbol of Trump's increased preparedness. Again, preparedness. Versus 8 years prior. Prior. When he entered the White House with zero governing experience. Okay, so yeah, this time he's ready. Okay. Okay, so it says here, the Republican said in a speech after taking the oath at the Capitol in a ceremony held indoors due to freezing weather, that America's decline is over after 4 years of Democrat Joe Biden's presidency, pledging the golden age of America begins right now. Okay, so yeah, he's very dramatic in his language. Okay, now of course here, when we say the Republican, it means Donald Trump, right? Because he represents the 共和党, right? Republican Party. So let's say again, Republican. Okay, so he said in a speech after taking the oath. Now, this is an interesting, I think we've learned this before. What is an oath? Right. So an oath is like another word we often use, and I know we've talked about this word, is a pledge. Okay, it's like a promise. It's like to swear, right? So we take an oath of, we call this an oath of office. That means that when you become president, you promise, you pledge, you swear that you will do certain things. You will fulfill your responsibilities to the United States. So we call that an oath of office. Okay, it's the office. Office means your job. You know, the office of the presidency. Okay, so we could say an oath. Now, there's other places where we take an oath, right? In court. Now, actually, I don't know about Taiwan, but in America, if you are a witness, you have to swear that you're telling the truth, right? And usually, when they take the oath of office or the swear, people put their hand on a 圣经 Bible, right? So it's basically saying, before God, I say I will do this, or I'm telling the truth, okay? So anyhow, let's say that word together, oath. Oath. Okay, and then the other word, pledge. Pledge. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know about this, but I know in court, if you take an oath to tell the truth, right? The pledge or tell the truth, swear to tell the truth, and you lie, right? Then it's a criminal offense, right? And there's a word for that. Yes, very good. It's called perjury. Perjury is when you in court, you lie to something, you do not tell the truth, then you can be, this is a crime, to perjure, to commit, we say to commit, to do perjury. Okay? So why don't we say together, perjury. Perjury. Right. You what? Sign. So basically you sign, you say, I this is true. Right. So it's similar, but you just sign your name. But it's legally binding, because in court you are testifying, you're using your words in front of everyone. There's witnesses, of course, that you are telling the truth. We say to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. That's what people say. That's what they actually use those words. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth means everything, the whole, 完整, and nothing but the truth, only the truth. So help me God. It means before God, I swear that I will tell the truth. So yeah, that's a legally binding statement, right? In front of everybody. Everyone's seen you say this, and you're swearing, and you're talking to the court official. So if you lie, it's a crime. Yeah. Yeah. To be sworn in. Yeah. To be sworn, SWORN, to be sworn in to office. It means, again, you swear that you will perform your duties, that you will do what you're supposed to. So yeah, in American court, perjury is a crime. If you yeah. The same, yeah. Okay. If you're an atheist, I think if you don't want to put your hand on the Bible, you don't have to. But it's still a crime if you do that. Yeah. Yeah. But I think most people still will use the Bible. Yeah, I'm sure somebody says, like, no, some people say, no, I don't want it. I don't believe that, or whatever. But the idea is the same. Yeah. So anyhow, it says here, in a ceremony held indoors due to or because of freezing weather. It's very cold in America right now. Okay, so he said that America's decline is over. Now, what does decline mean? Going down, right? What would be the opposite of decline? Ascent, right? To rise, right? He used the word ascent, right? Ascent is a 名词, right? And the opposite of ascent is descent, right? And if you want to, you could say to ascend or descend is a 动词, right? Instead of a T, we say ASCEND or DESCEND, to descend is a 动词. But this word here with a T is a 名词, okay? So why don't we say together, ascent, ascent, descent, descent, and then as a 动词, to with a D, to ascend, to ascend, to descend, to descend. Right, so decline means to go down, okay? Now, decline has other meanings too, right? You can decline or refuse something, right? But here he says America's fall, or America's drop, or America's is over. Who? Well, he was there. So I'm sure it was a little bit durian for him, but you know, I'll be honest. I read several articles recently that say that most Americans consider Joe Biden's 4 years to be a failure. They if they do a survey like a 民意调查, they consider his presidency. I don't know, maybe failure is a little bit too strong a word, but they don't think it was successful. Like he was not a successful president. So it seems like right now, you know, sometimes when you pass time goes by, people have a different opinion. But right now, I think more Americans think that his presidency was not a great success. Okay. But, you know, it's funny how when people look back, sometimes they have a different. The perfect example of this is, although it's actually not a perfect example, but I think if you want to look at another president like this, it's Jimmy Carter, right? Now, Jimmy Carter, still, people do not think his presidency was super successful. There were a lot of negative things that happened, but as a person, I think almost everyone really respects Jimmy Carter. They think he's a great person. And it's more about what he did after he was president. Not during his presidency, but after he left the office, he dedicated his life to helping people. Yeah, very good person. So it's very interesting. Even Donald Trump said good things about Jimmy Carter during his funeral when he died recently, right? Jimmy Carter. He was 100 years old. 100岁. Yeah. I didn't catch that. William McKinley was a president, yeah. So I don't know what that was about. I think the tallest mountain in America. I'm not sure. I think this is the highest mountain in America is it used to be called Mount McKinley, and it's in what state? Does anyone know? Alaska. Yeah. So they renamed the mountain as, I believe they used the native 原住民名字. It's Denali, Denali. I believe that's the name. So I'm not sure. I didn't hear what you said, but I believe if that's what he's talking about, maybe he wants to restore the name Mount McKinley, because that's the old name for that mountain. Okay, the original name for that mountain. Well, not according to Donald Trump. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say. Here, I guess this would be my opinion. This is my personal opinion. I would say that if you're going to give the Panama Canal back to Panama, the United States should, and maybe this is there, I'm not sure, but they should have a very clear agreement to say this is what you can do and cannot do with the Panama Canal. Now, I'm sure perhaps Jimmy Carter just thought, well, it's yours, so you can do whatever you want with it, right? But because the United States built it, and we invested a lot of lives and money into it, and it's very important to us, then I think the U.S. should say, well, here are your 条件, right? Here are your conditions. If we give it back to you, then here's what you need to follow. Here's the conditions for giving this back to you in your control. So I don't know. That would be my opinion, but. Yeah, I mean, I think here's the deal, and I told you guys this last time, is Donald Trump, he's so predictable in that he puts this out there. Why? So that he can put pressure on Panama to do something, okay? So he'll say something and get a reaction. What reaction are you going to give me, okay? People do this in business, right? He's a shangren, right? So, if you're bargaining with somebody, right? Let's say I'm trying to buy something, and you say, well, how much will you pay me for that? And I say, well, I'll give you, maybe it's worth 100块. And I say, well, I'll give you 20块for it. And you're like, what? That's crazy. How about 50块? Oh, okay, sure, I'll take it. So that's what Donald Trump does all the time. Yeah. So let's throw it out there. We're going to take it back. But, it's funny because a lot of people take Donald Trump literally. They think, oh, he's going to send the U.S. Army in there and they're going to invade Panama and take it back. I don't think that's what he's going to do. But I think he says these things, and then Panama's like, Maybe we should give him something, right? Or do something for him, right? Sure. Noriega. But that was because Noriega had some serious problems, right? There was, yeah. And the U.S. just said, Swana, we can't deal with this guy anymore. So yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I say Panama, but maybe some people say it other ways. I'm not sure, actually. Yeah. I think he's in jail. I think so, yeah. Because he was, I don't know, he was involved with all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's still in jail. Yeah, yeah. Or did he die? Oh, he died. Okay. He had cancer or something like that, right? Right. Cancer. Yeah, I think he had Aizheng. Yeah. Oh, Gulf of America. Yeah. America sounds better. Right, because we have North America, Central America, South America. Mm-hmm. 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 I don't think it's so much about controlling it. I think it's more about it's just a gesture. I think he thinks it sounds nice, and I think America is more of a broad name, right? It's a broader, like you said, it could be 北美洲、中美洲、南美洲. Americas is the whole continent, right? Two continents. So I think when you use Gulf of America, that sounds more open, more broad, right? It's not saying the Gulf of the United States. This belongs to us. No, he's saying, well, we want to use the name. Now, to be very honest, I really doubt that everyone's going to start calling it Gulf of America. I think it's just one of those things. It's a good publicity for him to do this kind of thing. But I'm sure it'd be very interesting to see when they do the 印刷那个 atlas, right? Do they change the name or do they keep the old name? 谁知道? Well, but this happens all the time, right? Because the South China Sea, Philippines calls it a different name. What do they call it? They call it the West Philippine Sea. Okay. So they use a different name, because another one is the Bosuwan, the Gulf, some people call it the Persian Gulf, Ilan. They call it Persian Gulf because Persia is Iran, right? But other people call it the Arabian Gulf. I think it's the Gulf of Arabia or something like that. Alabor. They use a different name. So, countries will do this, right? Yeah. But I know that there's another name for the Persian Gulf. There's a different name that other countries will use because, of course, Iran says, well, this is ours, right? Or we control this. So they use Persia. But other countries don't like that name. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure when it changed because Denali is a 原住民名字. I'm not sure when that happened. Yeah. But when I was a kid, it was called Mount McKinley. Okay. And then somewhere they changed the name. I think because he was charged with committing crimes against the United States. He was wanted in the United States for, I think it was drug related and other things. So I think the U.S. used that to say, well, he's actually a wanted criminal. And he's also disrupting this very key strategic area for the United States. We have a canal there, right? Very, very important to the United States, our strategic position. So with all those factors going on, this guy needs to go. I'm not sure. I haven't researched that. I don't know what their position was, but it doesn't seem like there was a big problem with that because it happened and there was no boycott or any other problems with that. So yeah, I do remember it was very short. And at that time, I believe the United States still controlled the canal zone, the Panama Canal zone. So yeah. I mean, the Panama Canal is very, very important to the United States. Well, in other countries too. I can, in a way, I can kind of understand what Trump is saying, because if Panama allows Chinese companies to come in and control all the ports and everything else, what would happen during a war? Would those Chinese companies allow the U.S. Navy to go back and forth, or would they try to block the U.S. Navy from going through the Panama Canal because they control those facilities? So I think Donald Trump is saying, what's going on here? How can we allow our biggest enemy to control the canal that is most important to us for our Navy to move back and forth between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans? That's ridiculous, right? How did this happen, right? And so I think that's what he's saying. And so now he's using all this very strong language to pressure Panama to, to change things, to do something, right? For giving the canal back to Panama, to control the canal back to Panama. Yeah. Yeah, it is, yeah. And so anyhow, it's a very interesting situation. But I think the U.S. is really, really alarmed. They're very worried about China's influence in their backyard. When I say backyard, I mean like the Caribbean Ocean and Central America and Latin America. They're very worried about that. And so they think, come on, we need to watch this and be careful about this, because China's obviously doing things, right? It is, but they think militarily they still have things they're trying to do, right? So, yeah. So I think that it's very interesting, because the whole American mindset or mentality or thinking towards China has really changed over the last 8 years, starting with Donald Trump during his first term, and now continuing on. It's really changed the American thinking towards China. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. Is what? Mm-hmm. Patronizing. Yeah. Uh-huh. What do you mean by that? To who? Well, I mean, right. It's maybe condescending to, I don't think condescending is the right word here, but it's a strong speech. I'm the boss. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah. So I think that's what he's doing. I'm the boss, let's get this sorted out. And not just China though, other things too, right? That's so I think Donald Trump wants to see America take leadership and push its interests globally. I think he feels like Joe Biden and other not just Joe Biden, but other people have kind of pulled America back, and they're too weak basically, and other countries have taken advantage of the United States economically, militarily, all these different areas. So anyhow, that's why he's saying these things. He says America's decline is over, and he pledges, okay, the golden age. What does golden age mean? Yeah, golden age means, what do they call it in Chinese? They say what? 黄金时代, right? Let's say together, golden age. Yeah, golden age, right? And you can use this for anything, right? You can say the golden age of Taiwan, the golden age of our company, the golden age of a person, right? Their best years, right? Okay, so anyhow, let's go on and read this. The Republicans said in a speech after taking the oath at the Capitol, in a ceremony held indoors, due to freezing weather, that America's decline is over. After 4 years of Democrat Joe Biden's presidency, pledging the golden age of America begins right now. Okay, so I just want to mention something. You know this because I mentioned it before, but notice here we have an O. What does that mean? It's the building, not the city. So when we say an O here, that does not mean 首都. If it's a 首都, it's an A. Okay, Taipei is the capital. It's pronounced the same, capital of Taiwan. But Washington, D.C. is the capital. We use an A. But this talks about the building. Okay, so just remember that. Small difference. Okay. Okay, you asked about Biden. So here it says, Biden watched stony-faced during the inauguration ceremony as his political nemesis read the last rites over his single term in office. Okay, there's some funny words here. Okay, if you are stony-faced, what does that mean? It means your face is like a stone, right? There's no expression. 没有表情. Yeah, it's just, yeah, the stony face. So if you say a stony face, usually it means someone looks very serious, right? But there's really no expression. They're not happy. They're not, this is like a stone, like a 石头. Okay, so why don't we say together, stony-faced. Stony-faced. Okay, as his political nemesis. Now, this is a very good word. I don't think we've learned this. What is a nemesis? It's like an enemy or your opponent or the person, whatever's the thing that you fight against, your nemesis. It's like your competitor, your opponent, so people, when we often talk about someone or something, actually, I'll give you a word that's quite sometimes maybe similar. We say arch enemy. Okay, your arch enemy. So, if you think of, I don't know, Superman, like, right, yeah, who's the nemesis of Superman? Okay, or Batman, maybe you could say the Joker, right, is his nemesis, right? It's their arch enemy, okay? Yeah, I think you could. I mean, this word is quite flexible, but it usually means like your number one enemy, whatever you're fighting against, right? It might not be a person, right? It could be something else, but yeah. So why don't we say together nemesis? Nemesis. And then this word, arch enemy. Arch enemy. Okay, so his political nemesis. Okay, now there's something else funny here. Read the last rites over his single term in office. Joe Biden only had one term in office. What is this meaning here? Last rites. This is very interesting. It's something that's very specific. Does anyone know when do you read the last rites over somebody? Actually, it's in the 天主教, when somebody dies, or no, I shouldn't say when they are dying, 快过世了, the priest, the priest, not father, yeah, what do we call that? It's in Chinese, it's not the 神父, right? The 神父will read a special, like a prayer over somebody who is dying, right before they die. It's called last rites. Now, rite means R-I-T-E is a ceremony. That means ceremony, right? So if you read the last rites over somebody, this is not 基督教, this is 天主教. They read the last rites. So here they use this expression when Donald Trump read the last rites over his single term off. So it's like his term is dying, it's dead, right? It's gone, it's over. And he's reading the last rites over that term. Not over Joe Biden, but over his term in office. Yeah, it's like a requiem. Yeah, it's like a funeral, right? Yeah. So that's what it means. Why don't we say together, last rites? Right. That's specifically, read the last rites. Right. So we always say that to read the. No, I've seen it in movies, but I don't know what it's usually in. It might be in Latin or something. I don't. It might be in English too. Yeah. Eulogy is when you remember somebody at their funeral. You say something about them. They're dead. Yeah. So a eulogy. If you go to someone's funeral and someone asks you to say some words about that person, that is a eulogy. So you can say, well, I remember so and so, and he was a good father, and he was a good businessman, and he did this and this. That's to give a eulogy, or you could read a eulogy. So that's what it means. I did for my father. So when he died, I got up in the church and I said a bunch of stuff about him. Now, of course, more than one person can do that, right? But usually they ask somebody to give the main eulogy, to say that. So as a 动词, we can say to eulogize, G-I-Z-E, eulogize, okay? So why don't we say together, eulogy? Eulogy. Right. Okay, so let's read this. Biden watched stony-faced during the inauguration ceremony as his political nemesis. One more time. Political nemesis read the last rites over his single term in office. Okay, let's go on here. It says here, however, after the pomp and ceremony, it was the showman Trump of his first term, along with the sometimes strongman style rhetoric, who was on display later in the day. Okay, so Trump's the president, but they're saying Trump is also like a showman. What is a showman? It's like, someone like a performer. Yeah. So if you think of like some in Taiwan, people like to watch TV. They have many 节目 where they have like a 主持人, right? Someone who is like a host. Like, what's that guy's name? Jackie. He's a showman. He's a performer. Everyone knows him. So he's like a performer. So we say a showman. Okay. So showman, but also it says sometimes his strongman style of rhetoric. Now, rhetoric we talked about before. Rhetoric means language, right? The words you use, rhetoric. But strongman is like a powerful leader, like a strongman. When you think of a strongman leader, we think of people like, Trump or Putin or Xi Jinping, or not necessarily a dictator, but just a strong, powerful leader. We say a showman, okay? A strongman. Yeah. Okay. But there's an interesting expression here. It says pomp and ceremony. Pomp and ceremony is an expression that we just use to say whenever there's something like a big ceremony, we have all the special events and the images and the music and all of that stuff. That's all part of the ceremony, right? Pomp is like that, like a spectacle. Actually, that's probably a good word. Like the spectacle, it means something that you watch and you look at, and there's lights and there's music and there's lots of things going on. So we call that pomp. It may be related, but pompous means arrogant, right? Whereas pomp just means all the spectacle, the show, right? The performance. Okay. So we say the pomp and ceremony. Why don't we say the word again? Pomp. Pomp. Okay. It was the showman Trump of his first term. Okay. When Trump, during his first term, he was very much the showman, right? Along with the sometimes strongman style rhetoric. Okay, let's say a word together. Rhetoric. Rhetoric. Which we could say, also we could simply say language. Okay. who was on display later in the day. So later in the day, his language it was very much the showman or the strongman style language that people saw later on in the day. Yes? No, during his first term, Donald Trump was very much like a showman, right? He was a performer. Okay. So let's read this. However, after the pomp and ceremony, one more time, ceremony, it was the showman Trump of his first term, along with the sometimes strongman style rhetoric, who was on display later in the day. Right. Okay. Oh, there's J.D. Vance. What? He is. Obviously. It's very funny. I'll tell you something. I think it's really funny. During the election, during the campaign election, or election campaign, Donald Trump was very famous for doing something at all his rallies. Do you remember what he would do often when he would come on? Do you know this? Huh? No. During the campaign, whenever they would welcome him, they would play music. And what would he do? Right? Okay. They call that the Trump dance, okay? In America now, everyone's doing this dance. Right now, seriously. At 运动比赛, when they win the game, all the players are doing this dance. But I heard, the funniest thing I heard was, even in Zhongguo, in China today, this dance is very popular, and they have like classes to teach people how to do the Trump dance. Okay, you know yeah. So it's funny when you ask if he's charismatic. It's funny that this funny kind of Trump dance that he does now has become very popular in America, in China, and people think this is quite funny. It's fun to do. So yeah, he is quite, I think, charismatic. Yeah. If he wasn't charismatic, I don't think he would have been elected. Oh, sorry, this is a photo caption. Let's go on here. So he's saying all this stuff in front of Biden sitting right there, and he's saying this stuff. So he says, could you imagine Biden doing this? Oh, wait. No. Biden was not here. This is afterwards. Okay, this is afterwards. Okay. So it says here, could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so. Trump told a cheering crowd at a Washington sports arena as he threw them the pens he had used to sign the first round of orders. So again, you asked if Donald Trump is charismatic. So, he's signing the orders, and then what's he doing? He's taking the pens and he's throwing them into the crowd. So so it's kind of funny. So let's read this. Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so. Trump told a cheering crowd at a Washington sports arena as he threw them the pens he had used to sign a first round of orders. Let's say it again. A first round of orders. Right. When we say first round, it means a first series of orders, right? Now, there might be a second round or whatever. Yeah. If you go to a bar or restaurant, you're drinking with your 朋友, we say a first round of drinks, right? If often people will say, okay, I will buy the first round of drinks. It means I will 请你们喝, and maybe you buy the second round of drinks, right? It means everyone gets a drink. So we use that, yeah. So if you say that usually in an English expression, we usually say the first round of drinks is on me. Okay, it means I'll pay for it, right? Okay. Now, of course, if the bar might say the first round of drinks is on the house, okay? If you say it's on the house, what does that mean? It means the bar will pay for it. It's 免费的 for everybody. So we say on the house, okay. I have not heard that, no. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Okay, must be, yeah, very Australian because I've never heard that before. So, okay, so it says here, back in the Oval Office, he held an impromptu 50-minute press conference as he signed more orders, including one pardoning about 1,500 Capitol rioters. Okay, now, we've talked about this word before. What does this word impromptu mean? It means it's not planned. It's like 突然, okay? So remember I told you about an impromptu speech? I think I talked to you about that last time. So if you know, when I was in high school, my teacher would say, okay, in 5 minutes, you need to talk about this subject. So I'm like, okay, and quickly you have to think about what are you going to say. And then you get up and you give an impromptu speech. There's no preparation. It's sudden, unplanned, okay? So why don't we say it together, impromptu. Impromptu. Okay, so he gave an impromptu like a 记者会 as he signed more orders, including one that pardoned. Now, this is a very big word these days. What does to pardon mean? Like to forgive, okay? So Joe Biden pardoned many people before he left office. In America, the president has the power to pardon people. So if you're guilty, let's say you're in jail, the president can say, okay, you can come out, we pardon you. It means you're free. You can go. Who did Joe Biden pardon that was very controversial? Who? His son. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he pardoned a lot of people, and a lot of even Democrats were not very happy about that because Joe Biden promised that he would not pardon his son, and then he did. Okay. So anyhow, here it says he pardoned, not Joe Biden, but Donald Trump pardoned about 1,500 Capitol rioters. Okay. You remember when this happened, right? Yeah. January 6th of 2020. Okay. Remember when Joe Biden won the election and many Americans, or I shouldn't say many Americans, but this group of Americans was very angry. So they went to Washington, D.C. and they had a riot or, protest riot. And many of them were arrested and charged and found guilty. And so we call that the Capitol rioters. So he pardoned them about 1,500. Now, Donald Trump said he would do this during the campaign. He said he would do that, and he did. Okay, so let's read this together. Back in the Oval Office, he held an impromptu 50-minute press conference as he signed more orders, including one pardoning about 1,500 Capitol rioters. Rioters. You know what a riot is, right? Like a kind of like a, how do you say that in Chinese? A riot. Yeah, 抱怨 or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so if you are a participant in a riot, you are a rioter. Okay. Now, this word, I forgot to mention, of course, this word pardon, you can use this word many ways, right? Like instead of saying 对不起, 抱歉, you can say pardon me. It means excuse me, right? Please pardon me. Can I ask you a question? Pardon me. I have to go around you. So it's a very common word to pardon somebody. It can mean sorry, excuse, forgive me, excuse me, pardon me, all the same. We can use it that way. Okay. Okay. So it says here they were charged for taking part in the assault on Congress on January 6th. Oh, it's 2021 by thousands of Trump supporters seeking to stop the certification of Biden's election victory. Okay, what's another word for assault? Attack, yeah. So let's say together, assault. Assault. Right, we can use this word for many things, like one of the crimes you hear about sometimes is sexual assault, right? Or physical assault, or even verbal assault, right? If you verbally assault somebody, you madhamen, right? You're using very strong language, okay? So in the assault on Congress on January 6th, by thousands of Trump supporters they were trying to stop the certification, means the confirmation, like to certify means to say that this is official, okay? You certify something. When you certify something, means you make it official, of Biden's election victory, okay? So Congress basically says, okay, this is, the 选举 is over, this person won. They certify the result of the election, and they were trying to stop that. Okay, so let's read this together. They were charged for taking part in the assault on Congress on January 6, 2021 by thousands of Trump supporters seeking to stop the certification of Biden's election victory. Okay. Okay, it says here, we hope they come out tonight. Frankly, Trump said, they're expecting it. Let's keep reading. He signed orders declaring a national emergency at the Mexican border and said he would deploy U.S. troops to tackle illegal immigration, a key campaign issue that drove his election victory over Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Okay, so there's a few things here. He says, we hope they come out. What he's talking about is he hopes when you pardon somebody, they can come out of where? Prison. Yeah. Jail is a little bit different. Jail is where the police put you for a short term, and prison is where they put you for long term. Yeah, like if the police arrest you in Taiwan, they put you in a jail before you go to court and all that, if they want to hold you. But prison is like yeah. Amnesty. That's a good word. Amnesty is similar to, if we say, often we say to, there's a 动词 we use to grant, or I guess we could say to give amnesty. It's similar. It means to give somebody, it's like to give them, how do I put this? Yeah. So amnesty is like maybe a broader word, like like you would give amnesty to a whole group of people. I mean, I guess that's what he's doing here, but yeah, it's a very broad word, but it's a similar idea, right? You're basically saying you're off, you're free, you're not charged with anything. That's a good word. Let's say it together: amnesty. To grant amnesty. To give amnesty. Yeah, so that's a similar idea. Okay. So he says we hope they come out, means that I hope these people can come out of prison tonight, frankly. What does frankly mean? Honestly, right? If you say frankly speaking, or I need to be frank with you, it means I need to be honest with you. I need to be direct with you. Frank, okay? Okay. So he signed orders declaring a national emergency, okay, saying there's a national emergency where? At the Mexican border, okay? And he said he would deploy. I know we've learned this word before. Deploy means to send, right? U.S. soldiers, troops, to tackle illegal immigration. Now, tackle, we've also learned that word. Tackle means to jump on something, right? But it means here to deal with, to handle, okay? To tackle illegal immigration. And this is a key or main campaign issue that drove his election victory over Democrat candidate Kamala Harris. Okay, so Americans are very, very concerned about illegal immigration, right? I forget, during Joe Biden's term, millions of illegal immigrants came into America, mainly across the Mexican border. And it was very interesting because right before Donald Trump was inaugurated, there were hundreds of thousands and thousands of more people trying to come across the border before he became president, because they probably thought this is going to happen, right? But I will say this is a really big deal. This is, like it says here, this is one of the reasons Donald Trump won the election. Okay, I think the main reason was the economy, inflation, and this is probably one of the, maybe the second or third main reason that he won the election. So it's a big deal. Yeah. Okay, so let's read this together. He signed orders declaring a national emergency at the Mexican border and said he would deploy U.S. troops to tackle illegal immigration. One more time, illegal immigration. A key campaign issue that drove his election victory over Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Okay, I think that's the right way. Some people say Kamala, but I think it's Kamala. I think that's the yeah. So actually, I want to, here it says that drove his election victory. When we say it drove his election victory, it means it pushed, it promoted, helped his election victory over Kamala Harris. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's what he says, but I think something like that has to be passed by Congress. I think Congress has to change the law. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think if he wants to change that, that requires a constitutional amendment. Okay. The Congress has to pass that, I believe. He can't just make an executive order. Yeah. Yeah. So that one is very interesting because, you know, I'm sure you know, a lot of foreigners go to America, 怀孕的, you know, pregnant women, so they can have a baby in 美国, and then their baby is American citizen, right? So that's a very, anyhow, I heard that, I think I told you this, I heard in Arizona, 台积电, they've already had over 100多个 babies in the 台积电 factory. So, yeah, but it's very interesting. It's funny because this issue, you know, we talked about China earlier. It's very interesting that a large number of Chinese have started coming across the Mexican border. And this has really concerned Americans because they looked at this and who's coming across the border. Now, maybe it's just that way it is, but they found that a large percentage of the Chinese, tens of thousands, 几万 Chinese that are coming across the border are men, young men of, we say, military age, right? They're the right age for being a soldier, right? So many Americans are like, why are all these Chinese men, young men, coming across the border into America? Now, of course, maybe they're just looking for jobs, right? Maybe they're just Taobao from China. Yeah, I think right now in China, everyone's trying to run, right? Everyone's trying to get out. And so, but I think Americans see all these young men and they think, who are these guys? Are they spies? Are they soldiers? Who are they? Yeah. So anyhow, that's what it is. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll have many more articles to read about Trump in the future. But I thought this was a good one to start with today. So anyhow, I hope you all have I want to say happy Lunar New Year. Happy Year of the Snake. 新年快乐, and we'll see you next time in the new year, the year of the snake. Okay, thank you.